Hello, everyone, and good afternoon, and welcome to another author interview here on Tales from the Wandering Scribe. I'm your host, Gabriel Garcia, otherwise known as the Wandering Quill and the Wandering Scribe, and joining us today is another amazing author, as well as a member of the Audiomazes family, making their debut here on the show. Now, my guest today is a seasoned electrician, devoted husband, and new father who moonlights as an award-winning writer, producer, and illustrator. With more than 16 children's books, 3 animated screenplays, and one internationally acclaimed short film under his belt, his favorite hobby is quickly developing into a highlight reel of successful creative endeavors. He's even donated the proceeds of 5 picture books to charity, and he hopes to become a bestseller and adapt one of his stories for the silver screen. In his free time, he can be found indulging his passions for hockey, spicy foods, and relaxing. He currently resides in Colorado with his beautiful wife, adorable daughter, and their 2 dogs. And if you follow this incredible author on their social media, they have been promoting one of their incredible works, which is, of course, Martha's Notebooks. And familiar faces such as Sophia Dujardin and Kaylee Robinson and many more have done their fair share of promoting it and giving it all the credit it is due, because I cannot stress this enough, viewers and listeners, Martha's Notebook is making waves. And to tell us all about that and more, let's give a huge round of applause to today's guest, author and fellow member of the Audiomazes family, Curtis Fulster. Curtis, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Gabriel. Thanks for that intro and everything. And yeah, it's just good to be on here.
Awesome, Curtis. I'm so excited to have you here on the show and to share with everybody the much loved, the much anticipated, and the highly decorated and award winning Martha's Notebook. So, before we dive into that incredible project, is there anything you would like to share with the viewers and listeners, possibly your fans who have been with you since your early start with short stories, children's books, and so forth?
Just that I have a lot more coming, and every time I think I know what's on the horizon, something takes a major shift and changes. So, I mean, even the stuff I think's on the horizon isn't even exactly what's on the horizon because it's always changing. So yeah, it's just more and more coming.
Absolutely, absolutely. And for viewers now learning about you for the very first time, Curtis, what can you tell them about the award winning, the famous Martha's Notebook?
Um, so it's of course for zombie lovers. It starts with a fresh type of zombie. It's not something like The Last of Us where it's a fungus. It's not like a virus or anything like that. Martha's Notebook is strictly AI-driven zombies. So it
Ooh.
begins with that, and they're controlled by AI-controlled microchips. And as they kind of go, they mimic the same properties, I guess, characteristics of a zombie, where they do eat people. They start off a little more like a typical zombie. They get a little smarter. They kind of change their tactics, which is where the AI comes in. So they're constantly evolving, and it is just a different type of zombies, a different take on it. And from the first book going into the second, there are newer versions of zombies. So there is a second version that is going to have quite the opening.
Awesome, incredible. And AI driven zombies. Yeah, that is truly, truly new, because you're absolutely right. We've seen the zombie genre be done so many times with so many different iterations, from the walkers to the runners to the infected and more. But AI zombies is definitely something very, very new. So before we dive into the creation of Martha's Notebook, let's talk a little bit about your journey up to that, Curtis. So, from your bio, you have done a lot. You are a jack of all trades. So, what would you consider to be your definitive aha moment that really pushed you to pursue the creative side?
Um, I think it, as weird as it might be a normal answer, it might not be. I would say just the idea of taking on writing and kind of deciding, like, lots of people decide to write a book. Lots of people are kind of creative. Why not just give it a shot? And it was kind of, at first I kind of thought of it and I was like, yeah, but like who knows? It's not really going to be that good. It's not really going to be that important. And I think the aha moment was once I sat down and started brainstorming my first books. It was an aha moment of, oh, this is fun. Oh, I can do this. Oh, I can think of good ideas. Like, this is just a fun, creative thing. Why not go with it? And then I thought of one story idea, then a second, then a third. Then I was like, oh my God, I love doing this. And there's so many ways you can go with stories. You can take a story that you already know, kind of twist it. You can do a completely different story. You can do a story that maybe you love, but you wish it was a little different. You can turn around and make that different story. It's just, there's so many possibilities. And I think that's where it kind of turns into an aha moment of like, yeah, tons of stories have been done. You can do your own. And there's so many to it. Once you sit down and think of what would I want to see? It's just kind of the aha of like, oh my God, this is so fun. I want to make this.
Absolutely. Very true. Very, very true. Now, before you wrote Martha's Notebook, you also wrote a series of children's short stories. You're also a screenplay writer and illustrator. So this is also a fan little question. What was sort of the challenges you discovered along the way for each of those three different aspects of the writer?
They were each very different. Illustrating in children's books are kind of, I guess, going with just children's books. The first issue I had was I had no idea how to write a book.
Mm-hmm.
Like I think I came up with 5 book ideas before I even started writing it. And it was kind of, I really had no place to start. I was like, okay, I have an idea. I can sit here and write 30 pages of a book. I don't know how to transfer that into an actual printed book in your hands. And so for that one, I kind of just went online. I started joining Facebook groups. I started joining friending people I saw that were in Facebook groups that seemed to be helpful to other people. And I remember there was one author, Tom Neely, that I still remember him because he was the first guy that said, like, let me sit you down and I'll go through how I make my books. And he told me about Kindle Direct Publishing, kind of walked me through it. He was like, this is what I do. This is what you should do. Of course, there's always YouTube. You can always YouTube 90% of the stuff you want to learn.
Right.
But yeah, I would say with just children's books in general, it's just literally how do I get words into a printed book or an ebook, whatever. Illustrating, I know I'm not the best illustrator. That kind of ties into the children's books part, but that was another hurdle. I went through, I think 4 or 5 different friends and family and stuff that were pretty good illustrators. And I was excited to work with them, and they, oh yeah, I would love to do this. I would love to do this. I'd send them the story. They were all excited. And then I'd be waiting, and then it'd be 3 months, 4 months. I'm like, hey, like, where are the illustrations? Oh, I haven't started. And I'm like, I need those. Well, I don't know when I'm going to get to them. Or they would just ghost me or something. So finally, I got to the point of, I knew I wasn't a good illustrator, but I wanted my books out so bad that I tried to get my illustrations good enough to where they could pass as being a children's book author or illustrator. And yeah, kind of just, that was my hurdle, was I went on YouTube, tried to find some tricks, tried to find some techniques to make them at least passable. But it was kind of, I wanted my books to become books so bad that I was willing to look kind of stupid having subpar illustrations just because I wanted them to be books so bad.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, at certain things at some point, I mean, you got to take the hit. Maybe it's not going to be the best, but you just get it out there.
All right.
Because I feel like, especially if you're just starting, you're starting at the basement. Like if you illustrate your own book and it's not the best, you illustrated a book. Now you can illustrate a better book, and you learned little techniques just from illustrating one. So now you know, okay, well, I don't do it this way, I do it this way. And then you can always learn and grow from that. But then I would say going to screenwriting, as weird as it is, it was kind of the same issue as starting children's books. I wanted to write a screenplay and I wanted to make the move into doing movies. And it was kind of the same thing of I had the words and the idea and the story, but how long do I need to make it? How do I write it? What techniques do I do? It was kind of like it was almost like relearning how to write a book after doing it was, how do I do this? And it was kind of the same thing. I joined, for anyone that wants to get into screenplays, I joined a Stage 32, which is basically like, it's like Facebook, but for strictly like movie people. So it's like actors, producers, directors, screenwriters. And I met a screenwriter that was kind of the opposite of me. He knew how to screenwrite and was good at it. He didn't have any ideas. He was like, I just don't have good ideas. I don't have any of that. And I was like, oh, I have hundreds of ideas. I don't know how to screenwrite. And so we partnered up and he showed me how to screenwrite and we kind of went from there. And yeah, we started together. I think we've knocked out 3 or 4 screenplays. I have 1 or 2 on my own. So yeah, just kind of went from there.
Awesome. That's really cool, Curtis. It's really, really cool. And honestly, you're probably now the second screenwriter that I've had on the show. The one I had before, she was known as Emerald Lion. She is the owner of Emerald Lion Press. And for those who know I'm referring to, she's been in the industry for a very, very long time. In addition to being a screenwriter, she's also an actress as well. So now, shifting towards the creation of Martha's Notebook. So when you were developing the idea for Martha's Notebook, Curtis, did you begin with an outline or would you consider yourself a spontaneous writer?
I've thought of that question a few times because I've heard the plotzer or pantser, whether you plot stuff out or you go by the seam of your pants. I forgot what the term is, plantser, whatever. But I would say I'm kind of a mix of both. I do a general plot and a general outline of kind of certain points I want to hit in the story, certain things I want to see. I kind of do I would say I do a general outline with maybe some specific parts here and there of like things I really want to see in it. I don't fully plot it out, but then kind of from each point, I kind of go by the seam of my pants. So I'll plot this out and okay, well in roughly chapter 3 to 4 or so, I want this to happen. And then in chapter 6, 7, I want these 3 things to happen. And then, yeah, I just start with, okay, well, how do I get from chapter 1 to chapter 3? Okay, well, I'm going to kind of go by the seam of my pants and just, we'll see how it goes and just kind of let the words flow. Because I like having an outline and being somewhat prepared, but I also don't like backing myself into a corner where I feel like there's no creativeness. I kind of like to start writing and just seeing where it goes. Yeah, if she's going and she's driving up to the mountains and for some reason I'm like, oh my God, if I was driving to the mountains, all of a sudden I slide off the road and now I'm stuck in the mountains. Like, I don't want to back myself into a corner where I can't add that in. I want to have some room where, you know what, maybe that does happen. Maybe I push everything back an extra chapter. So.
Absolutely. And then once you developed the overall idea of Martha's Notebook and you had a goal of when to release it, do you have a writing ritual or routine that kept you grounded and centered to make sure that you completed your book by a certain date and time?
Kind of yes and no. I would say the number one thing is generally I am very big on my own schedule. I like to make my own schedule and I like to, internally, I just feel bad just by myself if I don't hit schedules that I make, even though my wife jokes around with me that you realize you made that schedule. If you don't hold to it, nothing happens. It's just your own thing. But it is, I just have some internal thing where I feel terrible if I make a schedule and I don't hit it. But kind of as I get closer to, okay, yeah, the book's going to be done. Yeah, the book, everything's right on point. I should be done by this month. I'll even add a month to give myself a little leeway. I think usually the one thing that kind of keeps me set on, okay, this is going to happen, it's going to release, is I start slowly leaking. Hey, this is coming out. Hey, this is going to go. I notify my editor. I notify other people. I notify influencers and kind of get more things rolling to where it is kind of more set in stone of, okay, well, now I'm not holding myself accountable. Now there's other people that would hold me accountable and be like, hey, where's the book? You said it was going to be out. So I think as I get closer and I know it's a pretty for sure thing, I like to tell other people just as an extra way of holding myself accountable.
Absolutely, very true, Curtis. So from that point, what was ultimately your goal as the author for this project, but also your promise to not just the readers who have stayed with you from your early years with children's books, but also the new readers, especially those who are fans of the zombie genre?
Trying to think. I really just, I think for my fans, I kind of just hope I can continue, because whether it's children's books, whether it's horror, whether it's screenwriting, I kind of hope I can at least, sometimes I feel like my ideas are a little scattered. Sometimes they are a little unconventional or have different twists that maybe don't make a lot of sense, or maybe they don't, it takes a minute to kind of catch up, as like, because I put things in later that make it make sense more. I hope out of everything, at least my fans or whoever's following me does enjoy that. They don't maybe know what's going to come. They don't know what the twists are. Even if the story is a little different from a normal, like, professional went to college type of story, I would hope it's still, the story's still different enough where someone doesn't say, I've heard this before. Like, that's kind of one of my biggest things is I don't want someone to read my story or see a movie I did or something and go, oh, this is just like this movie. Like, I want it, even if it has like, oh, this is kind of a little bit like this, that's fine. I guess I don't ever want someone to say, oh, I've seen this before.
Very true. And that's something that we'll be touching on when we get to the business side of being an author, when in regards to our voice, but understanding the genre that we write for. Well, before we get to that, let's talk a little bit more about the book itself. So, Curtis, and this is another fan question, how do you make your characters feel authentic yet complex, as well as believable in the sense that it makes sense for these characters to be in this type of story? Because I definitely feel the one thing that we as authors want to strive for, in the multitude of things we wanted to get right, is having believable characters in stories that make sense for them to exist.
Yeah, I mean, I know it is a hard thing to do as an author, because there's so many different ways you can go with the story, with the characters, with everything. And I do feel like it is something where if you take one wrong turn with the character, like you said, now they're not believable. Maybe they act a certain way in one situation and you kind of go that way, and then all of a sudden it's like, that doesn't make sense because this person, now they're super confident, they were supposed to be scared or something like that. I would say especially with Martha's Notebook, because it was my first time getting outside the children's books, I would say I kind of just tried to think of characters I would envision is almost struggling a little bit in that type of world. So of course Martha, a preteen teen girl, I felt like she would have a hard time, especially being kind of the honor roll kid, the getting good grades, the doing everything by the book, and then all of a sudden the zombie apocalypse happens. Like, you can't do things by the book. You have to change how things are, especially with the zombies changing. So I thought it would be really tough for her, but because it's hinted that she is smarter, I felt like that opened her up to growing and making a slightly coming of age story, but also she has the ability to grow and almost thrive in the world because she's a big thinker, she's smart, if she can learn to adapt and kind of break some of her rules, she can grow really big. And so kind of, I guess for me, especially with Martha, and for me, Samuel's kind of the secondary main character. Both of them are a little more, I tried to do the opposite of what I would think for a zombie apocalypse. A preteen girl, maybe a little more innocent, a little more naive on that type of stuff. And then Samuel is kind of just a very chill, laid back, very caring guy. I felt like those two types of people would have the hardest time in a zombie apocalypse. But I also feel like that makes the story a little more compelling because then they have to evolve with all the chippers. They have to evolve to thrive and to continue to live in the world where I feel like zombie apocalypses almost always are whoever can't change with the world dies. So I felt like starting with something that was so different to the world had so much room to grow and change and kind of keep the story going to where they can kind of see what's going on around them and just grow with it to where Samuel has to become a little colder of a person. Martha has to grow way older than she is. And I've even had people she's acting more than a preteen by the end of the first book. And I was like, that's the point, if she has to grow so fast. But it is also, I like writing those two characters because I start to imagine what would I do if I was a preteen girl in an apocalypse and I had no idea what was going on. Or she kind of even makes a joke about how in the very first chapter that, oh, this is a zombie apocalypse just like I've seen movies about. So it's like she thinks she knows what's going on, but she really doesn't. So it is fun to just kind of almost let yourself fall into their shoes and see what you would do in that situation.
Absolutely, absolutely true. And this kind of goes to another fan question, which I'm very eager to hear your thoughts on. And you can be as spoiler or spoiler free as you want for these two questions. But one of my viewers asks, what have been some of your favorite scenes or moments to write in Martha's Notebook, as well as the most challenging scene to write in Martha's Notebook?
As weird as it might be, my favorite scenes to write have been the really emotional, really sad scenes. I think those are the most fun because you get to really bring out more emotion and really bring out more of the character. Samuel has, trying to be somewhat spoiler free, Samuel does have a really tough time in a few parts. One of them is a really, really tough time to where he just completely, his body, his mind, everything shuts down for I believe it's a chapter and a half. And it was kind of fun. It was fun and weird writing this person just shutting down while there's a whole zombie fight going on. And just that kind of what I would think would happen is somebody shuts down because they just witnessed this horrible death to where their body just almost dies itself. And then everyone else around them caring so much about this stranger they met that they're trying to save him while he's almost catatonic while trying to fight zombies. It was a little challenging, but it was really fun to write. But then Martha and her family, her sister Ava and her mom and dad, there is a scene where the dad has to deal with some emotional things. And I did like twisting the story a little bit to where he admits how much he loves his mom, loves his wife, even though they're going through a divorce. I kind of like adding that twist and that different piece to the book of they're going through a divorce. Okay, they hate each other. It's a normal divorce. They hate each other. And then he admits that he never stopped loving his wife. I like writing those emotional twists of where it is like you wouldn't think that. Like you would think a divorce is they hate each other, but they don't. So kind of I have fun writing those type of twists and those especially pivotal scenes where it is, oh my God, that's not what I thought was going on.
Very true.
I would say the hardest for me for writing, the hardest scenes have been the like major action scenes with multiple characters. Because it is, I like them, and because they're hard doesn't mean I don't like them. I do like them, but it takes a lot more time because you have to, especially to make it make sense, you have to remember, okay, this character's here and this character's there, but then these two spin, so now they're facing this, and it is a lot of, it's hard because there's a lot of stuff you need to remember to, because if you have two people fighting and Martha cuts off a zombie's leg and then she turns and another zombie attacks her, well, now you can't have Ava coming over and doing certain things because Martha's now tackled, so you have to keep with that. So someone has to pull the zombie off or she has to kill it. Like, you can't have Ava come over and give Martha a high five now because they killed all the zombies because she's being attacked. So it is, the more moving parts, the harder it is to write, but it's still fun.
Absolutely. Ain't that the truth? I know the same feeling when it comes to my own writing when I have multiple characters that are engaged in a fight scene and trying to, make them all feel, unique and organic and believable. And that also leads to the next question, which is, there are going to be some days that we can't get those ideas down on paper or we can't just write at all. So, Curtis, how do you handle the dreaded writer's block?
I think there's a couple ways. And I think it's good to have a couple ways because maybe you have a writer's block, so you try one thing. If that doesn't help, you try another, and you kind of just go back and forth. As weird as it is, I would say one of my writer's block helps is to not write and to allow myself to, okay, I'm going to take a day or two off. I'm going to relax. I'm going to not think about it. And sometimes taking a day or two to not think about it and relax, all of a sudden I have a breakthrough. And I'm like, oh my God. And sometimes I don't even last a day or two. Sometimes okay, I'm going to relax and not think about the book. And I get through half a day and I'm like, oh my God, this is what I need to do to fix it. And then I go right back to writing. So, I mean, you can even tell yourself you're going to take a 3-day break. It doesn't mean you have to take a 3-day break to break your writing block. The other thing for me personally is I get great ideas in the shower. Just sitting there with the water hitting me for some reason. I don't know what it is. Early morning showers, especially, something about it. Just all of a sudden, I get 50 ideas, and my wife will make fun of me because I'll quick dry off and run out of the shower and go write a bunch of ideas down. And she's like, "You got new story ideas," and I'm like, "Yeah."
That is very true. That is very, very true. And sometimes inspiration comes from the most unlikely of places. And this kind of goes into this next question, which is a very personal, reflective question, which is, as authors, we do find ourselves alone, at least in the beginning of the writer's journey. And sometimes we feel hesitant to share with people what we're working on. I talked with a lot of people on the show who have said that they only told their family and friends that they had worked on the book after it was published. Some of those are the opposite of that. So for you, Curtis, when did you tell your friends and family that you were working on this new book?
Trying to think. I think it was a mix because I do have some supportive friends and stuff in my life that I kind of usually, as soon as something is yes, this is 100% happening, I'll mention it to. Hey, I'm doing this project. Hey, I'm writing this. So I do have some people that I usually tell pretty early just because I'm so excited about doing something new or so excited about a project that I want to share with somebody. But I would say probably a majority of people in my life, I usually don't tell until either I have the story written or I'm pretty far into writing it, and then I'll mention it. But yeah, I usually don't share too much unless it's someone really close.
True. Very, very true. And this kind of goes into the next question, which is, what it means to be a creator, an indie author in today's digital age, because the industry has changed over the last 20 something years. So a majority of the people that I've had on the show thus far have said almost the same thing, that social media is a blessing, but it's also a curse. It is a good tool to use to network and connect with, but it's also a hindrance, as well as depending on the situation, a vessel for negativity, trolls, what have you. And of course, the dreaded imposter syndrome is always going to be there, and it's heightened by uh, social media. So for you, Curtis, have you ever had those moments of imposter syndrome or heightened anxiety for any of your projects? And in regards to Martha's Notebook, what disciplined you to continue writing this story because you knew this was a very good story to share?
I've 100% had imposter syndrome dozens and dozens of times. I've had self-doubt hundreds of times. I've probably had a few dozen times where I was like, this isn't even worth writing. None of my books are doing well. I should just quit. I've had all that a lot. I think for me, and I do agree, social media is, if you have one or two supportive people, that's huge. There's always going to be trolls. Most of the time, one quote I saw a while ago, and I don't 100% remember exactly what the quote was, but it was something along the lines of, you'll never have someone talking bad about you that has done more than you.
Ooh, that's a good one.
And it was, people that are doing less than you are the ones that are talking. So if you have haters or trolls or someone that are, oh, you're wasting time, why are you writing books? They usually, I would 99% guarantee they've never written a book. They've never tried to do anything creative. That's why they're talking. So that kind of helps me. Things like that. Quotes usually help me. But yeah, just kind of thinking of like, yeah, I am putting myself out there. The people that are talking are the same people that won't put themselves out there. So like,
true.
It's hard because I mean, even if you understand that they're not willing to put themselves out there and that's why they're talking bad about you, I have people in my life that I know they're going to bring me down because I'm doing more than they have done so far. I'm probably doing more than they'll ever do, and it's a realization that sucks, but the more you step over what other people have done, the more they're going to try to bring you down. Which is weird because I have a children's book about that specifically, and I wrote it from when I started. It was my second book I wrote, but it's a children's book about a balloon that has a rock tied to its string, and it wants to jump up into the stars and jump to the moon. And every time it tries to jump up, no matter how hard it tries, the rock pulls it down. And so the balloon ends up playing a game called Jumpers, and it's meant to be a 3-year-old book. So the balloon plays a game called Jumpers with a sunflower, and the sunflower is rooted into the ground, and so the balloon jumps and can't make it as high as the sunflower. And so finally the balloon's like, I'm gonna beat the sunflower and I'm gonna jump higher than he can jump. And so the balloon jumps so hard that the string breaks and the balloon goes soaring up into the sky and ends up landing on the moon and looks back at the earth and is like, oh my God, I made it to the moon. And then turns around and goes, I wonder what other planets I can make it to. So it's kind of one of those things of just make consistent goals and don't focus on all the noise around it. I would say make goals. I want to write my first book. I want to write my second book. I want to write my 20th book. I want to make a short film. I want to write a screenplay. Just focus on the goals that you want to hit, that you know will be what you want. Because if you write your first book, if you write your 100th book, if you're a best-selling author, it doesn't matter. There's gonna be people that are gonna make noise. So I think as long as you stick to your goals and what you want to do, you're going to have doubts, but I mean, that's kind of just part of the journey.
That is very true. And you touched on a lot of great things, Curtis, that we will be covering in the next segment of the interview, the business side. Before we get to that, there were two last questions of this part of the interview that I did want to ask you. And the first one is, of course, the debate of whether or not we are in a golden age or an iron age / new age. And I'll give some context for this. So, as you may know, I've been doing this show now for about 6-7 years. I've interviewed a lot of authors during that time. And a majority of these authors that I've interviewed all began their writing career professionally during the height of the COVID lockdown, the lockdown years. And what I've learned, and myself being one of those, is that it became a breeding ground for new voices, new talent to emerge. And once the floodgates opened, it just changed the game forever. You had new narrators, new editors, new artists, and especially new authors. And this has sparked a debate of whether or not, because of the COVID lockdown, that we are in a golden age, or rather an iron age, a new age. Because again, the industry is always changing. So for you, Curtis, I would love to hear your thoughts on this and ask, do you believe that we are in a golden age or a new age?
I would have to go with a new age. I don't know if I would consider it a golden age. I don't think we're too far behind a golden age, because I feel like with a lot of things, when there's big changes, kind of with, I feel like I saw it with crypto. I've seen it with a number of other things. There's usually a whole bunch of brand new stuff where everyone's like a gold rush. Everyone's trying to get in. Everyone's trying to get their piece. Everyone's trying to do something. And then it's almost like there's just so much that's overwhelming, and then everything snaps back to where it's almost like you filtered out all the BS. Because I feel like right now with AI being able to generate books in minutes, with people just, because I do know that there are good, talented authors that are trying to get in, which sucks because they're competing with AI generated books. They're competing with people that might have some talent, but are also just trying to get a cash grab. Let me quick write 1 or 2 books and I'll be a millionaire. I feel like there's all those types of people out there. I feel like there's, especially with the AI, I think there's like an overabundance right now of books coming out, where I feel like a lot of them are kind of garbage, because they are, let me just throw it out. I'm going to make $100 million and I'll be good. So I think right now I would go with Iron Age, just because I feel like there is an overabundance of books being released. I do feel like at some point, whether it's in a year, whether it's in 5 years, 10 years, I feel like at some point there's going to be a snapback to where there's so many books that nobody's making money, to where all these AI generated books, all these people that are trying to get a cash grab with books are all going to quit, because they're going to say, oh, there's so many books, I'm really not making that much money. It's not a gold mine. And I feel like once all those people get filtered out, it's going to suck waiting. But whenever that happens, all the talented people will all of a sudden shine, because all of a sudden there's not all these books. But by that time, I mean, if they're patient and they wait, which I'm trying to do, I feel like at that time you could have 5-10 books. I mean, even if you have 2 books. Well, now you have 2 books. Now you have people going, oh, who's this new author? Oh, they have a couple books. So it is, I think eventually it'll be a golden age, and maybe sooner rather than later. But I would say right now, I think it's an iron age.
That's a very good perspective, Chris, that you brought up. And I'm actually glad you brought up the point of AI. And just to add to that, when it comes to like AI generated books, the reason it's so popular tool is that it mass produces a false sense of creativity. And my favorite rebuttal to the use of AI when it comes to writing books specifically is like asking an alcoholic 7th grader to write the book for you, because ultimately you're going to be the editor. You're not going to be the author. You're going to be the editor. Now, are there some benefits that AI can be helpful with the publishing industry, the process? Yes. I said this a few times on the show. If you're looking to make an outline and you're struggling with it, then run it through a generator. That will give you a basis of how the story goes, and you could tweak it as you see fit. If you want like, an idea of like, oh, I need some character descriptions, I don't know good characters, run it through, and that will help you. But ultimately, when it comes to writing the story, that has to be human first, because as we know, well, viewers, as mentioned before, me and Curtis are part of Audiomazes, and Audiomazes has a strong support of human first talent. That's authors, editors, narrators, what have you, because we do want all of us to be successful. And exactly like Curtis said, once people realize that this is not an industry to get rich quick, it will take time, it will filter out, but the people who are truly passionate about the industry will be successful. And that now leads into the next segment of the interview, which is, of course, the business side of being an author. So, as a little icebreaker question, Curtis, another fan question, which is going to be a two-parter. When you began writing Martha's Notebook, what was the most surprising aspect you learned about the publishing industry in the sense of writing your first true novel? And then from your journey thus far, is there anything you would have done differently?
That's a good one. I guess going to what was different for me was Martha's Notebook. I did spend more time and more money on marketing. I didn't even mean to. I got more into the marketing aspect through Martha's Notebook. I guess one thing that surprised me though with doing it is Martha's Notebook is obviously a zombie horror thriller, whatever you want to call it. For some reason, I was kind of thinking horror and zombies and stuff. It's a pretty small niche market. Like it's not going to be, there's like a small amount of zombie fans. I didn't realize, and maybe I was a little naive to it, I do feel like there's a lot more people that are vocal about liking those books versus there being a lot more people that are quietly just buying those books and enjoying them. I guess going from children's books to novels, I didn't realize, it kind of surprised me how many people read novels and love novels. They're just not that vocal and open about it on social media or anything else. They just quietly buy the book, they read it, they enjoy it, and that's it. So it kind of surprised me how many there were of that. And what was the second part to the question?
The second part to the question was, from your journey thus far, Curtis, is there anything you would have done differently in terms of like maybe marketing or promotion or doing something different?
Trying to think, because it is, I mean, technically, Martha's Notebook is my 17th book. So, I mean, I've had a lot of practice with kind of general book stuff. I would say, and kind of just because I'm getting more into it, I would say the one thing I would do more is look more into the marketing, even though I don't feel like I did bad with the marketing. I know because Martha's Notebook is the first of a trilogy, I am planning on kind of testing out some different marketing aspects for the next two books. So I would say maybe that would be something I would do different, but I'm doing it different for the next book is kind of testing out and kind of looking into different types of marketing for the books. Just because it is, as much as it sucks, because at first I hated marketing, it does suck that I feel like a lot of people think you write the book and you're done, you're good. Now 10,000 people will come buy your book, and it's not that easy. It is, once you get the book written, it's almost like you created a product, but now you have to go convince Walmart to stock it. Now you have to go convince some kid on the corner to buy it. It is kind of like having a product in your hand really doesn't do much. The other half of it is you have to convince people to buy it and convince people that it's worth buying.
Yes, very true. Very, very true. And another thing which is important when it comes to the marketing aspect is, who are you marketing for? who is your audience. And I definitely think as authors, we're told numerous times in workshops that, oh, write for your target audience, write for your readership, but you really don't know until you're really at that final stage. And I think it is important to talk about this. So for you, Curtis, as you mentioned before, Martha's Notebook is your 17th book in total. You have a good idea, but you've also written in other genres and for other readership groups. So ultimately, Curtis, after through trial and error of understanding your voice as an author, would you say that you're an author who writes to your target audience or rather a specific readership? And an add-on to that as a fan question, in your opinion, Curtis, when should an author take into account their audience? During the initial drafting phase or during the marketing phase?
And it might be different for me. I don't know exactly if this is a normal author response. I write for me because I feel like I don't want a cash grab. I want to enjoy what I'm writing. So I write for what I feel is going to be fun. What I feel like, I try to write stories that I feel like I'm going to get sucked into. Because then, one, it's easier to write because you're into the story. So you just kind of roll with it. But it's also, I feel like if you're enjoying it and you're passionate about it, someone else is going to be passionate about reading it. So I kind of write towards what I want to write, what I feel like I would enjoy. And to me, I'm not writing for a target audience, but I'm trying to write for me, which will make me passionate about what I'm writing. And I feel like even for me with music, with anything, I enjoy it more when you can feel the person's passion in it. Like for me, I love music. When you hear music and you can tell, oh, this person just went in and made something because they want to make money. You can kind of feel that. But when you hear someone that if they made $10 off of their music, they wouldn't care because they enjoy it, you can feel that too. So at least for me, I try to write to where you can feel, hopefully people can feel that I'm enjoying this. And yeah, I got too into that. I forgot the second part of the question again.
No problem, no problem. The second part of that question, and I think you may have covered it a little bit, but maybe you can go more in depth. And that is the fan question is, for you, Curtis, in your professional opinion, when should an author take into account their audience? During the drafting phase or the marketing phase?
For me, and I enjoy doing it this way, I would say during the marketing phase. And I think I agree. I think I kind of covered it because I enjoy drafting and writing. I enjoy doing for me what I'm passionate about, what I like. I would say after that, once you have your passionate story, something that you created that you love, that you're happy it's here, you enjoyed writing it, people are going to enjoy reading it. I think once you have the book, or even as you get close to the end, you can almost kind of sit back and say, like, okay, what type of story is this? Okay, this is a story that it's zombies, so it's a horror story. Okay, well, I should go towards horror people. But then you can start targeting, okay, out of horror, should I target more adolescents because it's Martha who's a preteen, or should I go for more adults? And then you can kind of start narrowing down, would females like this more because it's about a girl? Would males like it more because it's horror? Like, you can kind of, at least for me, I feel like it's easier to have a good book in hand and then start narrowing down, okay, who should I target?
Yes, very true. Very, very true. And going to the next question, which I think you covered in the beginning, Curtis, about, an author's voice. That's the next stage of the marketing, is understanding the genre that you're writing for. Because I'm sure you'll definitely agree, as authors, are always told, write the story that you want to write. Absolutely true. But also add on to that, understand the genre that you're writing in. Because those readers have a specific idea of how a story like that is supposed to go. And I don't think a lot of authors really take that into consideration. Almost like what you said, that you want your stories to have that nostalgia element to it where it invokes that memory, but it's not trying to be this. And I think as authors, that's where we struggle with the most, where we don't want to be so new that it, deters the reader, but not so familiar that it's a carbon copy of something else. So for Martha's Notebook, how were you able to balance out the expectations of those for the zombie genre while also making it fresh and unique and still writing in the style of you?
I mean, it is definitely a balancing act. I think it's one that makes being creative so much fun. But I think it's one of those things, especially if you enjoy a certain type of movie, you enjoy comedies, you enjoy whatever. Like, I enjoy zombie movies, so I know, like, I've watched Walking Dead, I've watched Last of Us, I don't even know how many zombie movies, reading zombie
Nation.
books,
Yep.
yeah, post-apocalyptic books. I mean, you kind of, especially if it's something you just enjoy consuming, you kind of get a general idea of how those stories go. And I would guess if you love crime dramas and stuff, you're not going to turn around and write a comedy, and maybe you do,
Nope.
but if you like the more serious, more intense things, you're probably not going to turn around and write something lighthearted. So you probably have a general idea of the different tropes and things that they use of, okay, I'm writing zombies. Zombies are known to eat people, so I'm going to have that they eat people. I'm going to have kind of bring in specific tropes of they eat people. They're kind of mindless. There's people that are running for their lives and having to fight with them, and not everybody makes it in a zombie apocalypse. I mean, maybe somebody wants to write a feel-good story where everyone makes it, but zombie apocalypses in general, not everybody makes it. So you got to kind of get a general idea of some tropes that you like. Zombies. I mean, maybe if you did a comedy, maybe there's certain tropes of you love slapstick or whatever. You kind of get the tropes down that I like these typical things for this genre. And then off of that, I mean, you can decide to twist them. Maybe you flip it around. Maybe, okay, not everyone makes it. Well, I want to make it where nobody makes it in this. I want to make it where everyone makes it, but maybe there's some twist to everyone makes it, but now they all have some virus where they're gonna die. Like, you can always kind of twist and tweak it to where it's something you enjoy and something you want to see. So I feel like there's always ways to make it, you're going off a trope, so it's yours, or so it's that genre. But then you can kind of always put your voice in it, your twists in it, and kind of just, once you start going that way, I feel like you start getting a good idea of what the story's going to be. Because then you can kind of bring in characters that, oh, well, this character would be funny in this type of thing. Maybe they bring a little comic relief. This person would struggle really bad. This person might thrive, but maybe because they thrive, maybe they're the villain. Like, you can always kind of play around with what you would want to see in that type of situation.
Absolutely. Very true. Very, very true. And another thing which I think is important to talk about is, of course, as you said before, Curtis, that you want Martha's Notebook to be a trilogy. This leads into the most important question when it comes to marketing one's book is, of course, the ending, make it satisfying, and knowing where to stop. So for you, Curtis, when you were writing Martha's Notebook, how did you make the ending feel satisfying, but also know when to stop writing and save the future ideas for the sequels?
I would say, because I already have the ending of the full series in my head. I knew from the beginning how I wanted the whole series to end and where I wanted that to leave off. I kind of got some ideas of what I wanted to see in the middle, and then kind of slowly broke it into, okay, well, let's make this 3 pieces. What would make this first third interesting? What would make the second third interesting? What would make the third interesting? And then kind of going back through and, okay, well, if she's going to have to deal with these things in the second book, what would be a good cliffhanger in the first book? Even if it is one line, what's a good cliffhanger to where it does kind of like what you said? It feels like the book's ending, but maybe the book's ending, and then you just throw this little wrench in there of, oh my God, what's going to happen then?
Mm-hmm.
So it is like you can kind of almost get an ending to the story, but then throw that little wrench in there, just that little twist of it's ending, but why zombies couldn't swim the whole book? Why can they swim now? Zombies were eating people the whole book. Why did they stop? Like, you kind of throw that twist in there to where it is, you almost give a big question of why did that change? And I feel like that kind of leads you straight into the next book, because then it is, you have this big question you're leaving everyone with. Well, now you got to answer it in the next book. And then, okay, you go through the next book, but now there's something that's been normal through both the first two books. Well, now you twist that again, so now you have the third book. So I feel like just leaving a big question at the end almost makes it just slide right into a second book, a third book, a fourth book.
Yes, very true, Curtis. Very, very true. And I also think, the decision of where to stop comes, from trial and error, definitely, seeing what works, and also listening to, our fellow authors and our inner circle, which leads to another important question, which is, of course, networking. I cannot stress this enough, viewers and listeners. Networking is vital for authors, no matter who you are, whether you're a traditional, hybrid, indie, or any independent creator. So, Curtis, for you, in your opinion, like, how important is it for authors to really experiment with networking? And are there any people from your inner circle that you've gathered over the years that you would like to give a special shout out to?
I guess I'll start with a couple shout outs. I would say my friend Body for sure, because him and I have gone back and forth. He doesn't write, but he does all my merchandise. He's also a DJ. He's also doing music for the short film we're doing, the Martha's Notebook, Samuel and Jordan. But he's just been a huge supporter since the beginning, and probably my biggest supporter besides my wife. But I would say it's funny because we met off of networking.
Oh,
Because when I was doing my children's books, I did a few books where the ones that where I gave the profits to charity and stuff. I think all of them ended up going to different music charities. Or I guess most of them went to different music charities. But then there was a local charity in Colorado called Youth on Record that I ended up working with through the book and kind of did stuff with them, and even went to they teach kids about music and stuff. I even went in and did like a thing with them for a day. And so I got to know the vice president and talked to her, got really close with her, got to know her. And then I forgot exactly how it went, but yeah, one day we were talking and I was like, oh, I love my books. Like, I feel like I'm missing out on not having merchandise. I even like one shirt that just says C Fulster, or something. Like, I feel like that would be huge, and it would give me another piece of revenue, another thing I could say, hey, if you like my books, check out this shirt. I felt like it was like a given. And she goes, oh, well, this guy Body does merchandise for us here and there. And I was like,
ooh.
I don't know who that is. And so she worked with him and she worked with me. So she connected us and we just immediately hit it off, and we're working on 20 different projects together. We've done so many different creative things. We've done phone calls where we got 4 or 5 more good ideas. I mean, just from that one networking. And I mean, it wasn't even a huge networking thing. It was just someone I'd worked with that he worked with, and we just got connected. Like, that blew up into a whole bunch of merchandise. He's helping me with the short film. Like, I just think networking is huge, because if you network with a creator, you might get more stories. You might get connected with someone who's more influential. Maybe they can help you kind of boost your career. If you connect with influencers, they can obviously help you boost your career. I mean, maybe you get connected with an editor and you have a free or a cheap editor. I mean, networking is, the more you network, the more you can barter with people instead of having to pay. I need an editor, here's $3,000. I need a narrator, here's $4,000. I need merchandise. I'm going to pay this company $3,000 just to get some shirts made. I mean, the more you find other creative people that are in the same boat as you, just trying to make a career out of something they enjoy, the more you network, the more you get those connections, the more you can, hey, I'll do this for you, you do this for me, I'll do this for this person, they'll do this for you. I mean, then all of a sudden you almost start having a team that works together that just helps each other.
Very true. Very, very true. And this kind of goes into the last few questions before I get to the final one. Well, the second to last question, which I think is more like a role play scenario. So imagine this, Curtis. You're invited to give a talk or a workshop at a book festival or scriptwriter summit, what have you. And in that room are aspiring writers, authors, screenplay writers, what have you. And in the pool of topics to choose from, what is the one topic you would love to teach that class of new talent that also instills in them a sense of wisdom?
I think one thing I would really enjoy teaching is just an intro to writing. Because I feel like that's the biggest hurdle, and I feel like that's where I struggled the most and where I got lucky and got help right away, is just the intro. Just especially finding people that have stories. And it's not, because I've had people do it too, and I'm sure you've had it, and a lot of authors, of someone saying, hey, you're an author, here's a story idea. And it's like, I can't do anything with that. But I would love to help authors that are that actually do have the story idea and actually want to write it. Hey, I have this idea. I don't want someone else to write it. I want to write it. I want to get into the book industry. I want to write stories. Like, I would love to help those people jump into actually having books, to help them get from, I have this idea, I've started writing it, maybe I haven't, maybe I have a finished book ready. How do I get it into people's hands? I would love to teach something with that, of just jumping in and getting it going and getting your book into people's hands, and just almost that introductory type of thing. I would love teaching that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And now we've arrived at the final two questions of this amazing interview, Curtis. And here they are. With everything you have learned about the industry, from its highs and lows, its setbacks, what have you, what is your advice, your word of wisdom to authors wanting to get into this industry? And as we talked about, this is not a get-rich-quick scheme. It is not a moneymaker. Your goals have to be realistic, because, there are two paths: to be an author and be known as an author, and you have to understand which path works best for you. And ultimately, what do you want people to take away from Martha's Notebook?
I would say, to the first question, I don't know. I would want to tell people just to just go with it. I'm not gonna lie, totally I'm blanking right now.
It's okay.
What? Sorry, might need to cut this out. What exactly was, I was like focusing on both questions and got tripped up. What was the first part?
So, okay, maybe I'll say in a way that's maybe not a little confusing. So, ultimately, as we talked about throughout this interview, as authors, that it is a great industry to be a part of, but you have to understand your goals. You have to know that this isn't a get-rich-quick money scheme. Are there exceptions to the rule? Absolutely, but those are the exceptions. As I said, there are two paths: to be known as an author and to be an author, which are two very different things. And ultimately, you have to figure out what kind of author you want to be. So with that being said, Curtis, what is your word of wisdom, your piece of advice that you would like to share with the authors listening or viewing this interview right now? And ultimately, what do you want them to take away from your works, your writings as an author?
So I would say my advice would be, that it's not a get rich quick. I think that's kind of what sucks is a lot of people now are thinking it's let me throw a story idea into AI. I'll print out 1 million books and become a millionaire. I mean, it's just not a thing, especially with how many people are trying to do that now.
Mm-hmm.
It's just very oversaturated. If you make a few $100, you might be pretty lucky, and you might honestly be in the higher end if you do that with one book. I would say my advice is to write. As much as it sucks, I was kind of thinking of it when you were asking me the question. Is I was told it's easier to edit a bad page than a blank page, and I remember seeing that quote, and that's why if you just write, because I went to the Independent Press Awards for an award, and the table I was at was amazing. The people there were just incredible, and it was funny because they were all very different. There's a loving, goofy couple. There was an older couple that were amazing. There's a single guy next to me. All of them are amazing, but as we talked about books, I realized one of the girls wrote one book and was just marketing the crap out of it. Another guy, and I forgot, she said she wrote a book in a year. And I was like, that's kind of where I am, like a book every 6 months to a year. Another guy said he took 10 years to write his book. And then another guy said he took 3 years to write his book. And so you might be able to knock one out in 6 months. I've heard of authors that can knock them out in like a month or two. But that's the thing is, if you're getting paid to be an author, you can knock a book out in 3 months. If you have a day job and you have kids, you have whatever responsibilities, there's nothing wrong with taking 3 years to write a book. Maybe that's all you can do. Maybe you get 2 hours a weekend to write a book. There's no set timeline. You don't have to finish a book in a year. You don't have to finish it in 5 years. It is what it is. So I would say just to write, and it is kind of like I said, you can always edit a bad page. If you write for 6 months and you get halfway through your book and you're like, oh, I don't like this idea, just edit it. Maybe you edit the first half, you don't write the second half. Maybe you write the second half and then you edit the first half to match it. That's the one thing with writing is, especially if you're writing for yourself, you don't have a timeline. You can do whatever you want, whenever you want. So I would say to just write and just do it. You're going to learn as you do it. It's fun. Just to kind of get into it and keep writing and get things done. I would say that would be my one thing is just to write. And like we talked about before, all the noise, people saying, when I first said I was going to be an author, I had my roommate at the time told me, do people even read books? You're wasting your time. Why would you write books? So, some of the first people I told me it was a waste of time. I love doing it. So I don't care.
Very true.
So it is, I would say, like, honestly, as stupid as it sounds, just right.
Very true, Curtis. Very true. And ultimately, what do you want people to take away from Martha's Notebook, and especially how you approach storytelling?
I would like people to take away from Martha's Notebook just that you can use, and because I know people have also said that zombie books and zombie stories, whatever, are oversaturated. There's too many of them. I know zombies are like a big deal, so I've heard even too that it's just an oversaturated genre. I would say that and hope that from Martha's Notebook, people understand that you can take an overused genre and twist it. You can bring something fresh to it. You can really, that's kind of the fun thing about writing stories. You can do whatever you want. You can make zombies go into, you can't with copyright, but you can make zombies go into the Disney universe. You can cross zombies with vampires. You can have zombies where it's the opposite. Everyone else is zombies and their people are attacking zombies. Like you can twist anything the way you want to and make whatever you want. And that's what I think I would like people to see with Martha's Notebook is, oh, someone's doing AI-driven zombies. That's not normal. That's not typical. And it's like, but you don't have to write normal, typical books, which is where I feel like AI is good and bad. Because I do feel like there's huge benefits to AI. I mean, having AI write stuff is just, like, it can be good and bad, but it is, at least right now, AI is not creative enough to do that.
No.
Like, if you say, hey, give me a vampire story, but change it so nobody else has done it, AI is not going to know what you're talking about. You need to sit there and think, I want to write a vampire book really bad. What's something I haven't seen in vampire stories that I would personally love to see? Like, that should be the type of thing of, what haven't I seen that I want to see? What type of twist? What's a twist in a crime drama I've never seen that I really want to see? What's a twist in a comedy I've never seen that I really like? That's what I hope people get from Martha's Notebook is, wow, this is a different twist. I want to do something like that in whatever genre I like.
Beautifully said, Curtis. Beautifully said. And with that, viewers and listeners, we conclude an amazing author interview here on Tales from the Wandering Scribe. I want to give a huge thank you to Curtis making his official debut here on the show. Now, Curtis, where can people find you on social media if they want to reach out? And where can people buy copies of Martha's Notebook? And do you have any special announcements for Martha's Notebook going forward?
As of right now, all social media is C Fulster Author at Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, wherever you want to go check me out. You can get all my books at cfulster.com. I have all my books. I have updates, blogs, stuff like that there. I would say right now, the few things I have coming up are, I do have Martha's Notebook, Samuel and Jordan, which is going to be a short film, which we are finishing up filming. I have an awesome person coming in, the DJ friend I said who's going to do some of the music. I got the president of Scriptapalooza is going to make some of the music during the film. And then I actually got a Disney and Lego sound designer that's going to do the sound design for some of the stuff in the short film. And then aside from that, I'm planning to release a book cover for the second installment of Martha's Notebook soon, within the next month or so, hopefully. And I'm planning on the short film and the next novel releasing sometime in January.
Awesome. Awesome. And also, viewers and listeners, if you want to check out Curtis's other work, such as Conspiracy, make sure to go to Audiomazes, which I will link down below, to order your copy. It is a great story. It is a great read, and the chapters with the branching narratives, you will not be disappointed. And be on the lookout for Curtis's interview on Into the Maze, which was recorded earlier this year, to learn more about Conspiracy and what to expect. And as always, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe down below. And make sure to check out all the links that Curtis mentioned that I'll be attaching to the bottom of the description of this video. And as always, viewers and listeners, thank you once again for joining us for another amazing episode here on Tales from the Wandering Scribe. A huge thank you again to Curtis for making his debut. And until next time, this is the Wandering Scribe and the Wandering Quill, signing out. Wish you all a wonderful day wherever you are in the world. And we'll see you all in the next episode.